My name is Simon Coyle. I'm a 50-year-old homosexual male. I was diagnosed with HIV back in 2001. Back when it began in 1983, it really scared everybody. And that carries through to this day in some of the stigma that we still face. The biggest stigma that I'm facing. And that's just in getting to meet other people. Plus, I've got to admit a little bit of my own bias in dealing with some younger guys. I came across one over the weekend who, after he'd said he looked at my profile on one of the dating apps, noticed that I was positive and said, "That makes me nervous," and I automatically just shut him out as a possibility completely. But he persisted in contacting me, and we wound up having a conversation where I found out his nervousness actually comes from his former lover, who almost deliberately tried to infect him, so I can understand his nervousness. I mean, he's a young guy, he's 22, he's got his whole life ahead of him. I'm 50. I've got maybe 25, 30 years left, would be a normal life. And the worst example of stigma that I've ever come across would be the case of Eve van Grafhorst back in the 1980s, young kindergarten-aged girl who was basically refused admission to kindergarten because she was HIV positive. The parents of all the other children didn't want their kids to be around her in particular. Kids at that age, they'll run around, bump and scrape, bite, play, tug, scratch. And at that time, they were right in their fear, but the expression of that fear eventually drove Eve and her entire family out of this country. That would be the worst that I've seen. The single biggest factor in changing the attitudes has got to be education and information, flat out. There's a number of different social media campaigns going around. The Smile campaign, the Enough campaign, Living Positive Victoria, they have a speakers bureau which go out to older aged primary schools and secondary schools with HIV positive people talking to younger people. Education, they're the biggest thing, it's the biggest thing we have to fight any kind of stigma, is just education. I'm incredibly optimistic about the future and the perceptions of HIV, particularly the little stigmas that come from within the seropositive community, the larger, grosser generalisations that form stigmas from within the gay community generally, because I don't see them outside of that community very much. I see the general community being a hell of a lot more supportive and being a hell of a lot more informed. They're educating themselves, and when you've got information, you can deal with fear, and fear is what drives the stigma. So I'm very optimistic about eradicating the stigma as much as I'm optimistic about eradicating the virus.